Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Howdy, 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 and welcome to Sonoma, here for the Shake and Bake Racing Elite Euro Road Series here on Apex Racing TV. I'm Austin Knight. I'm joined by Dylan Christie, and we got the one, the only Alex Simpson in the production booth. And like I said earlier, we're here at Sonoma for a fantastic 45 minutes of GT3 action.
Yes, Austin, it's going to be a good one. We have a nice 17-car grid here to go around this 2.5-mile circuit that is Sonoma Raceway. We'll be using the Cup layout this time, and I think it will be a good one. Of course, we're running these drivers are running the sprint setup, and we'll have a pit stop within this race, and there should be a lot of good racing and a lot of good things to see throughout this 45 minutes.
It really is. It's a tight field. The field's not that spread out. Looking at the midfield, though, I do have a few drivers that are really master of this track up at front, but everybody else is going to be looking to be giving us a amazing show out there on four wheels as, well, drivers are finished qualifying and they're gridding up right here for the 8th season of the Elite Euro Road Series. So, hey, they know what they're doing, and hey, we got our reigning champ back here right now, Casey Waters. He's going to be show to watch in that Audi, but it's Andreas Hoyos. He's starting up on pole with Nathan Tetzloff and Casey Waters, defending champion, in third place, running the number 1. Brody Gunther in... Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Brody Gunther in 4th place, followed by Spencer Clark, John Hoyos, David Shively, Alish Hancock, David Burgess, Brian Perez, Aiden Doyle, and Chris James in 12th place. Behind them in 13th, there will be Mark Bush, James Marr, Charlie McCarty, Stephen Cooper, and Victor Stank at the end of the grid in my favorite car, the Ford.
Yes, and a lot of good spread out times in this series here today, so there should be a lot of good racing, a lot of mixed levels of experience here in this series, so we should have many different levels of good racing here. Drivers ranging from up into the 128s, which is very quick, down into more less experienced time. So it's good to see drivers who are maybe more used to oval racing taking on this road racing series here in GT3. We know GT3 racing to be generally really, really competitive. So it's nice to see these drivers having a more open and just a good way to get into such a good and competitive car for drivers who maybe are more used to oval racing. Nice to see Shake and Bake getting involved with the road racing side of things, considering all that iRacing has to offer for our GT3 racing here. And I think it should be a good one. Of course, Sonoma known to be a little harder to pass on, I would say, but given the amount of time and the amount of strategy and thought that goes into GT3 racing, I think that there will be a lot to see here today.
It certainly is. Sonoma, very famous in America for road racing and cup racing as well, even though cup and road are pretty much the same thing, and drag racing. And speaking of this layout, it does run on the drag racing track. It enters the track midpoint of the dragway. Right after timing, they run up the hill, and then it's a hard braking zone over to that double apex right-hander. It's such a fun track, and if we're going to be seeing the strengths of these GT3 cars down this straightaway, the faster of the cars, really going to be benefiting from that dragway. And then the more slippery of the cars, the ones that really can tuck in that draft, are going to be having a lot of fun down that straightaway as well here at Sonoma. Sonoma each year has probably my favorite race in springtime with the GT Challenge Cup here, where they show some great GT racing, GT4s, GT3s come out here, touring cars as well in the springtime. And you get to see these hills in nice green grass, and it's probably the prettiest Sonoma ever looks every year.
Yes, Austin, and I think for this race, I think the main passing zones are going to be turn 11 and turn 7. Looking at the track map here, there's a lot of those are the two biggest straightaways out on track right now. And I think that those will be the opportunities for the drivers to pounce as they head through the final corner. And looks like the number 2 thinking about taking off. Andrew Hoyos thinking about taking off there, but as they settle down, the field bunches up and gets ready to go. Lights are out and green flag as Andreas Hoyos gets a really nice lead there. Nate Tetzloff slots into second. We have a nice little batter. Oh, and car goes around there. That's a tough one. I believe that's Brody Gunter there. Or hard to see who that was, but cars all bunching up behind that number 92, I believe that is, and that's cars off everywhere. That's tough. Damage to the looks like the number 7 there, David Burgess there, and not the cleanest start we've seen, but drivers seem to be getting out single file, getting out of trouble. We'll see if we could get maybe a replay of what happened there on the start with that battle for third, but that's an interesting way to start the race.
We got a sprinter coming out of the giant carousel. Spencer Clark and Steven Cooper are around. Clark in the Lamborghini. Cooper got, both the Lamborghinis are out immediately as heading through the carousel. It looks like they were just trying to take too much mustard through there, and they went around. But currently, right now, it's the double Lamborghini lead of Andreas Hoyos and Nathan Tetzloff of Casey Waters, your defending champion, and that Audi in third place. And then it's a big gap to John Hoyos in fourth place. Biggest mover of the race so far is Brian Perez sitting in fifth place, as all these drivers had a little bit of chaos to make their way through the race, and I'm expecting some other drivers to be heading into the pits. There was a lot of damage on one of the cars. I believe it was the Porsche, but let's take a look at this restart right now. Brody Gunther in that McLaren. He's on the outside. Now that goes onto the inside line right there, and just got squeezed onto the inside line, and then got into the tire barriers on the outside. He does keep the car going, gets back on the track, but that's not all that happens in front of him. There was contact in the chicane right here, just right after this turn. This blind chicane is so treacherous as the McLaren's on the outside. A big dive by the Lamborghini, and then it gets tagged by I believe that was Ashley Hancock, just pushing that Porsche just forward, and that Porsche got a lot of damage on the front nose. Kind of looks like a old Trans Am car, honestly, with the amount of nose damage that thing has.
Yes, Austin, that's really tough. We know how hard it is to start races here at Sonoma, heading right into a chicane, and you can see just all the chaos happening. You know, multiple cars going for one space, and it just doesn't work out. and we can see that here. We'll see how the drivers are able to recover from that. But Andrew Hoyos out to a pretty steady lead. His start has gone pretty well as we right on board with, I believe that's Spencer Clark going around. And that's really bad. Hope they can get out of the way. That's a really tough spot. That's kind of a blind part of the track. That's not where I would want to be stopped at all. We'll see if they're able to recover. And not the cleanest start ever, but certainly an interesting one. All clean within the top 2, but behind that, I'd say that it's been, I'm sure if you're a driver who's good at navigating chaos on the start, you will have done pretty well here so far. As we ride on board with a nice little 5-car pack here. It's Aiden Doyle we're right on board with, in the number 24, running 7th now, trying to go to work on, trying to see that is that number 85 there, Shively. David Shively there in the number 85. Aiden Doyle just putting the pressure on. I'd say this is one of our closest battles out on track right now. A bit of a hectic start, but it has sort of spread out the field a little bit past P6. There's about a 1.5 seconds, almost 2-second gap between that top 5 and P6. But it's nice to see, even in the mid-pack, this nice little battle here. Drivers putting it on the edge and doing all they can, even in the mid-pack, and that's nice to see. That's typically where we do see our closest battles, is in the mid-pack of the field. And we can definitely see that here, even on a track that is generally harder to pass on. Drivers putting on the pressure and doing all they can. I believe that's trying to see that yellow Mercedes putting the pressure on. Trying to see who that is. Chris James under a lot of pressure right now for that 8th spot. That's Gunther putting on the pressure on James. He goes he goes to the outside and just clips the outside of Chris James there, and that's quite the way to get the spot, giving a little bump and run there. Probably some oval racing technique being used there, but if it works, it works. So that's Gunter up to P8, Brody Gunter, and Chris James, and unfortunately losing out a bit on that, but some really good racing. Ooh, he was not happy about that. Oh, that's going to hurt them both. But hey, he got the spot back. I'm sure he wasn't too happy about that, but he got it back. A lot of really hard racing here, and that's the way these drivers race. I mean, it certainly is putting on a show. So nice to see such close racing as I think that's Gunter. Brush trying to get another spot back. He's seems to be the order they were in before, but a lot's happened since then, and those two are still going back and forth with each other. You love to see it. Ashley Hancock off there in P14, making a bit of a recovery there. But yeah, definitely some good racing in what's a 45-minute, pretty long race. But in the first 5 minutes, we've seen quite a bit of good hard racing, and you really love to see it.
Yeah, a lot of hard racing. Levels are definitely out right there. A lot of incidents happening throughout the track. We saw that contact with Gunther getting pushed out wide in turn 1 again. And turn 1's very tricky if you go in side by side, because it's you got the apex on the left, you got the apex on the right, and you always got to leave the space heading into those corners right now. But the youngest driver in this field right now, Andreas Hoyos, is pulling away from the field 3.5 seconds ahead of second place at Tetzloff. And Waters, your defending champion, the number 1, is 1.5 seconds behind Tetzloff in second. And, well, honestly, 4.5 seconds behind Hoyos right now. And Hoyos has had the least eventful race so far. Once the green flag dropped, they just pulled away from everybody else. But their race is going to be highlighted by, was that a Lamborghini? Was that Spencer Clark trying to become a tree?
I don't know. I'm trying to see.
As we were going down that straightaway, I saw a Lamborghini in the tree and a lot of smoke.
There's a lot going on out here, to be honest. There's quite a bit of stuff happening out on track. But yeah, Hoyos with I believe it's a 4-second lead now.
Yeah, this is Spencer Clark coming around the carousel. We saw the car spinning around here at the start, and oh, there goes the back end. Spencer Clark locks up onto the brakes, and it gets onto the throttle and decides to go up onto the hill. Turn left, and he's just going to do a little bit of bird watching.
Yeah, so Spencer trying some off-roading there, which is kind of funny, but hopefully he can rejoin and get back into the race. We're back with Andrew Hoyos there to Brian Perez. This is the battle for P5 right now. I believe it's he's working on John Hoyos right now, and those two seem to be somewhat close. I think the pace of those two is pretty similar. Brian Perez actually about a second quicker last lap, so he is making ground on John Hoyos there pretty quickly, honestly, catching up. So we'll see if he's able to make a move. It is quite hard to pass here, I would say, at Sonoma, because something happened.
Our leader just went off.
Uh-oh.
Andreas Hoyos just went off and is now sitting in third. Waters is now your lead. Hoyos and Tetzloff, they both had an issue, and they've fallen from the lead into second and third place. As we were talking about that, here's Andreas Hoyos heading into the carousel, and I believe they just might have cut the grass. And yo, the Lamborghini snapped around right there, and here comes Tetzloff. Tetzloff understeers, trying to correct it. He goes around, and then through the middle, Casey Waters takes the lead of the race from the top two, spinning around in the carousel.
That is, that's an interesting way to take the lead from third. I'm sure that Casey Waters is happy with that one. I wouldn't say that Tetzloff would be very happy with that, but this is a tough track, and that is, wow.
He just tightened up the steering so much right there that he upset the car. And these cars, even with traction control, it is still easy to upset those Lamborghinis, which is funny because technically those two Lamborghinis are on the same platform as the Audi right there. So it's technically the same car in the lead right now.
Yeah, this is
a little fun fact right there.
Yeah. This is not what I expected for a 45-minute long race. There is certainly a lot happening here. And I think that there's a lot of curb there. I think that playing the long game is going to be in these drivers' best interests. As Waters is in the lead, basically from just staying on track. And of course, this is a tough circuit, tough car. As we go through this section where the leader spun, there's definitely, it's hard to try and get rotation in the car and have it always be settled. These drivers probably maybe playing with brake bias a bit, doing what they can with this fixed setup to try and get the car to rotate in the first half of the corner, and if it doesn't work, then you can go around there. And we saw how easy that was for even the leader to have an issue there. So we'll see what happens with that regards. We ride on board with Brian Perez, still working on John Hoyos there for that fourth spot. All over the back, we are seeing a bit of error wash, it seems like, as Perez does have good pace, but it's just hard at this point probably to catch up and make a move. That being said, we still have 35 minutes in this race, so there really is no rush. As that being said,
gets an amazing run.
Gets an amazing run there.
Yeah, got right up onto that Mercedes. The Mercedes was actually sliding through the hairpin. Perez having to back off right there, but are we going to see Brian Perez look down to the inside of turn 2? He sets himself up wide, looking for the switch back off the exit of turn 2. And he does get a run, but they're going to be side by side heading up this uphill chicane. He's got to leave the space on the inside, or else he's going to get squeezed off right there. He he was left space on the entry, wasn't left space on the exit. And that is Hoyos in the wall. John Hoyos and Brian Perez making contact side by side on the entry, and I guess Hoyos just didn't think that Brian was going to still be there on the exit and just retook the other apex as his. And there's definitely going to be some finger pointing about that, but that chicane is so rough to go side by side through. It's blind apex on both of them, and it's kind of like a jump if you really take it by yourself and really fast. So we got side by side heading into the top hairpin right now. Double right-hander round the outside is Chris James on David Shively, but Shively able to sneak it down to the inside and defend for 6th place right now. But James all over that gearbox of that Mercedes in that Ferrari as they chase each other down the S's and heading into the chicane. That Mercedes is like a rock in the braking zone. So that Mercedes is going to be very hard to overtake right here. But you can see James really sending it in, trying to get all of the car stopped right there and using all the track as well. Running on the curb actually to get that car rotated around the hairpin. It's not going to be good for your tires as they go on for another lap right here. 12 minutes down, just a few more minutes to go. as side by side, well, they're looking side by side. Chris is definitely hunting for that inside line in this first sector, heading into that chicane once more. That Mercedes just doing his own thing, but that Ferrari is so quick through this fast corners. You can see how much time he gained. Looking down the inside at the entry. That's such a tight corner to have an opportunity to look down to the inside right there. He probably would have just done a little bit better if he just didn't go for that corner. Capitalize off of the carousel right there. But that Mercedes is such a stable car. Probably one of the more stable GT3s. And then you got that rapid Ferrari right behind him. And they're catching up to Brian Perez ahead of us. So this fight for 6th is now turning into the fight for 5th. But you see James looking down the inside once more, wanting to get some moves right there as Shively has caught Perez.
Yeah, we could see a lot of interesting lines being taken by these drivers. You could see Chris James is sticking his nose in. I'll be really interested to see how Chris James and David Shively can handle this battle if Chris James is able to catch up. We've not seen a lot of passes happen really without some form of contact. We know how hard it is to pass, especially in chicanes like turn 2 here. And we've seen a lot of drivers having issues with just not being able to ride side by side around this tight circuit. So we'll see if Chris James is able to make that work a bit better with David Shively than some of the other drivers have. We've seen quite a bit of contact, but the drivers making the overtaking move have seemed to make it work for them. That being said, it's a long race and you do want to stay out of damage. So we'll see how Chris James can make that happen. But some very close racing here, especially at this point in the race. We can see Chris James just putting on so much pressure, trying to get in the head of David Shively here. And we can just see his raw pace here because there is aero wash in these cars. And despite that, even in the high speed, Chris James seemed to just be all over the back of Shively. You can see him taking a bit of a different line into, I believe that's turn 6, which might help to combat that aero wash there. So we'll see how he progresses, and he just keeps sticking his nose in on the inside, which is it's sort of a way of passing in its own. By just putting the pressure on the driver ahead, you are able to just get in their head a little bit, which makes it more likely for them to make a mistake. I know that's something I would do a lot in street course racing, and that seems to apply here quite a bit as these drivers seem to spread out a little more. Of course, we always say that things are spreading out and then something interesting happens, but for the meantime, it seems like these drivers have sort of gotten into a comfortable position and have seemed to spread out a little bit. No super close battles out on track right now, with Waters up to almost a 6-second lead, with Hoyos and Tetzloff about a second apart from each other, and then that's about half a second back to Brody Gunter in P4. P5 would be Brian Perez in that number 9 car, as we can see.
Hard to update. Sorry to interrupt you, Dylan. Tetzloff just had a big off, and he's off the track. That gap where he's running with Hoyos, he's fallen to 12 seconds behind Hoyos. Right there, the Lamborghini in front of him was a lap car, but the car behind him, that is Gunther in 4th place, and Hoyos with another mistake in the carousel. It looks like, and yes, it is. This is Nate Tetzloff having that second incident, and oh no, as soon as we've gone to the replay, and the carousel got caught off wide, and into the tire barrier. Just a skim though.
That could have been a lot worse.
If you want an update again, as we go back live, Casey Waters and Andreas Hoyos have swapped for the lead. As soon as we went to the replay, the fight for the lead has changed. And this is what happened in the final part of the S section, losing the back end of that Audi. Casey Waters around it in the wall, the defending champion and the leader of the race loses the lead right there. And now regaining the lead of the race is Andreas Hoyos in that Lamborghini.
Yeah, this is so crazy to see. Andreas Hoyos first with the issue, probably felt like there was no way he could recover from that, but just like that, Waters and Tetzloff, your entire top 3 had quite the issues with oversteer here. Of course, this is a tough track and a tough car to run lap after lap consistent. These drivers also are on a fixed setup, makes it a little bit harder. to get a car that suits your driving style, or to you can't suit the car to you. You really have to adapt to the car, and we can see even the front runners struggling with this a bit. But Hoyos, if he is able to stay out of trouble, Andre Hoyos should be in a really good position. He's up in a 10-second lead right now, and really under no pressure at all. Waters too, sitting in second. He had his issue, lost the lead, might be hard to get it back, but you never know what happens, and he has quite the gap back to P3 as well, so he could really just set his eyes forward on that leader, Andre Hoyos there, that P1 spot. Probably working, just trying to get back into a rhythm, stay out of trouble, and as soon as you get into a rhythm in these GT3 cars, then your race is sort of set. These cars are all about rhythm. Of course, qualifying and starting up front, while it's typically important on the sim, GT3 is one of those series where you really do have to play the long game, and whoever's able to stay out of trouble and play the long game, as well as putting consistent laps lap after lap, should be the one to come out on top here. But for the most part, our field pretty spread out, as we're about 18 minutes, approaching 19 minutes into this 45-minute race. Of course, pit stops, the pit stop cycle, and anything else that could possibly happen here will mix things up, and I'm sure that more things will get mixed up as we ride on board. We have a replay of Victor Stank, seeing if something happened here with our... Oh, that's that Ford GT3 going around there. I believe that's our only Ford out there. Nice to see them representing Ford, but unfortunately they go around there and doing a little off-roading, but able to get back out on track and maybe eventually back out on track. So
it's not the Ford it's not the Ford F-150 chassis, unfortunately. So it's not good at off-roading right there. This is Nate Tetzloff, was running in 3rd place. He's actually fallen to 4th to 5th place now. This is what happens, spinning in the hairpin and getting caught by that tire on the apex right there. So Tetzloff now sitting in 5th place, as Casey Waters is our first car to head into the pit lane. Now remember, Casey did have that damage. He did have that incident on the few laps that lap ago, where he spun at the end of the S's entering that final sector. And this is Casey heading into the pits to get that repaired and get some more fuel in the car. You can see the fast air being used right there, popping that bodywork back in place, and he now is getting that Audi filled up and ready to get back going out there. I'm not expecting any of these drivers to be taking tires, as it's 45 minutes. You do not need an extra pair of tires for this. Just fuel and go, go, go.
Yeah, it's interesting to see him in the pits so early. I'd say generally you want to pit later on, as just it helps you to save fuel. So we see a lot of rotation there from Hoyos there, John Hoyos. You're seeing these cars in general just struggling with over rotation, even in the low speed, and it's definitely made this race an interesting one. I'm sure David Burgess will try and pounce on that 6th spot if Hoyos keeps struggling with oversteer. Trying to see if there are any close battles out on track right now, but it seems to be pretty spread out. It seems like maybe there could be a battle for P4 right now. Tetzloff and James pretty close, I think. Maybe not. Maybe that's 2 seconds. No, so James is still 2 seconds behind Tetzloff there. The field mostly pretty spread out. Drivers just getting into a rhythm, getting into the position they need to be, maybe doing a little tire saving, and just thinking about how they can make the most out of this race and not make mistakes. And that's how we typically see GT3 racing. I feel like around the midpoint things start to die down and spread out, and drivers get into a rhythm. But we've just been used to how interesting and eventful the start is. These drivers putting on a good show, getting some good battles in, but it seems to be pretty spread out now. I think a battle for P7 right now. I think Doyle on Burgess seems to be the closest battle right now, I believe. Those two, and a 3-car pack, or I think maybe a car's a lap down there, but Doyle in P8 working on, a little contact there with the Ford. Little contact with that Ford there, but those two able to get out of it. Doyle under some pressure, it looks like. Not sure if that car's on the lead lap behind him. That's Casey Waters lead? Is he on the lead lap there, or are they on different laps? It's hard to tell, but
Casey
the battle
Waters
regardless.
Casey Waters is on the lead lap. This is the fight for 8th place right now, as that Porsche is driven by David Berger. So this is a fight for 7th, as Waters and the fight for 8th. I'm sorry. That is the Porsche. This is the only Porsche in the field. And that Porsche did have that incident at the start of this race. You're here live watching the Shake and Bake Racing Elite Enduro Racing Series here at Sonoma. Elite Enduro is a family-owned auto repair shop in Florence, South Carolina. Josh and Crystal Skipper pride themselves on the careful, attentive work that they bring to both European and American vehicles. In addition to their wealth of experience on working on foreign exotic cars, they also specialize in world record loud car audio. For more information, check out their Facebook page at facebook.com/Elite Euro or call them at 843-407-4958. Once again, that's 843-407-4958.
Yes, Austin, and as you were saying that, Casey Waters, who we didn't expect to be as far down as he was in the field, made a pass on Burgess, I think it was, or Shively, I'm not sure, whichever car that Porsche is, but a nice clean pass in the hairpin, and now Casey Waters can set his eyes forward. He's had good pace, but quite a few mistakes here. We'll see if he's able to make some ground and get back up. I think Burgess is pretty close, so he should be able to have some opportunities to get up by. And this nice 3-car pack here is, I believe, your closest battle out on track now. That's riding on board with Doyle there. And it was actually Doyle who got by Burgess there. I was mistaken there. But Waters, with his issues behind both of them, putting the pressure on Burgess there, trying to get by and get that spot as Hoyos.
Burgess
Doyle
actually just had a little bit of a mistake. Burgess went onto the inside because they were going into the pits, and he didn't want Waters to have that issue. Well, actually, no, that's what happened. Burgess got into the grass and into the wall. David Burgess falls down multiple spots and into 9th place as Doyle's hopped into pit lane. Burgess going to be joining them as well. Horrible, horrible section of the track. I saw David taking that next line very tightly off the exit. I thought he was defending from Waters, but this is what happened. The back end of that Porsche goes around right there. That's a big hit into the wall. Very unfortunate for David Burgess.
That's tough. We see all 3 drivers seem to get a bit checked up there, and then they all just dove into the pits. That's a tough way to start a pit stop, you know, hitting a tire wall and then just making that late call like, I'm going to go into the pits. Probably a good time to make that call as he's able to hopefully clear that damage and get back out on track. Thankfully, I'd say if you've made a mistake and had a spin here, you're not the only one, as many drivers have had that issue. So maybe in the end, it will not even be a net loss for him, as we ride on board with Brody Gunter there. Sits pretty much completely by himself in P2, which is, I'm sure, a comforting spot to be in, but probably wanting to race away that
in front of him.
That's something that will be hard to get.
Third place is 14 seconds behind him. But Brody Gunther, after having a very, 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 very tough start of the race, currently sitting second and is just trying to keep that Mercedes pointed forward, as the incidents that he's been a part of have actually all not really been his fault. And if he can keep this car very nicely through the rest of the stint, he could try to go for that overcut on the rest of his competitors right here and try to, well, when the pit stop cycle really started, he was sitting around in 5th place, it looks like, so he's looking for 4th place coming out of the pit stops. This is Mark Brush from Pennsylvania in that Ferrari heading into turn. Oh, that's a missed braking point. Such a tough corner to really get, because there's not really a braking marker out there. And goes off the track and just make sure he rejoins the track where nobody else is going to be there. Our leader, Andreas Hoyos, has entered the pit lane. So this is looking at Brody Gunther. Is the Mercedes going to be joining Hoyos in the pit lane? As it looks like most of the cars right now are running on fumes. That sprint setup is a fixed setup fuel for sprint races. It's in the name. So it's not going to be a 45-minute fuel availability in these cars, but they can adjust to see how much fuel is going to be. And Hoyos, well, it has to go all the way to the end of the pit lane as Gunther takes the lead by staying out, and Hoyos, the only driver on that hasn't gone into the pits. That lap is the only one to go into the pits, so some differing strategies right here. As Ryan Perez jumps up into second place. Tetzloff out there as well. There comes Hoyos out of the pit lane and will be rejoining the track in fourth place as we are looking at this fight for second place between Brian Perez and Nathan Tetzloff.
Yes, we'll see how Andreas Hoyos is able to navigate the other cars around him until the pit stop cycle is complete. I'd say that Hoyos already has a big lead, but an even bigger one he'll probably have at the end of the pit stop cycle just by simply not having damage. He did have that spin, but he managed to keep the car really out of any damage, which will really, I think, serve to his advantage in the end, as we can't see so far now with the way the pit stop cycles are going. But I think in the end, the drivers with damage who went to repair that damage will be losing time in the pits. So once things settle out, if Andreas Hoyos is able to stay out of trouble, he should be able to come out with an even bigger lead than he already had before. So I'm sure he's thinking to himself, just put your head down, stay in a rhythm, and stay out of trouble. I think a lot of the incidents that we're seeing out on track could be partially due to the fact that this is a fixed setup series too, and something that can make fixed setup races tricky is that you cannot suit the car to your own driving style. You really have to adapt to the car, make the most out of it, and we see drivers typically struggling with a bit of oversteer, so possibly that could be something that with the fixed setup could be something that these drivers are struggling with, especially if the track is heading in that direction towards oversteer. As we ride on board with Perez, I think he's under a bit of pressure there from our P3 car of Tetzloff. Both these drivers having issues, but mainly Tetzloff, who was off to a good start, qualified P2, but had many issues now in P3, working on Brian Perez, hoping to make up that spot and get back into the second position. Still about a second and a half back, but if he can just keep up the pace that he had that put in P2, he should in time catch up to the back of Perez as we ride back on board with our race leader Brody Gunter, who has still yet to pit with a 16-second lead right now. We'll see how he does once the pit stop cycle is complete, and if he is able to challenge Andreas Hoyos at all as he dives into the pits and a car goes off behind him.
Yeah, that was Ashley Hancock in the wall. Third car today we've seen have an incident right there, and that might have a bit hair raising for Brody Gunther, because if Ashley had that incident right in front of him, he would have lost a lot of space and might have almost had collision right there. But everyone else, Brian Perez and Nathan Tetzloff, all heading into the pits as well. This is going to be the end of the pit cycle. Who is going to be your race leader at the end of this cycle? All eyes are looking at Andreas Hoyos right now as he is on the front straightaway. And Andreas Hoyos, in 3, 2, 1, takes the lead as they blast through Sector 1. Now, where is this going to let out Gunther in all this?
He's fallen down the order. I mean, I thought maybe he'd be a little closer.
There he goes,
but...
in second place. Gunther in second place on pit
wow.
exit right in front of Waters. The fight for second. Gunther with the overcut was sitting in 5th place before the pit stop cycle. He's now sitting in second place in front of the defending champion of Casey Waters.
Yeah, so really close battle happening here for that second position. We've seen how hard these drivers race in this series, so I'm sure that with only now 14 minutes left to go in the race and the pit stop cycle is concluded, as Gunner makes a mistake there, and that's Waters trying around the outside a little and then down on the inside, but not close enough. Waters all over the back of Gunter there. We'll see if he's able to make a move as he puts the pressure on Gunter. You can just see Gunter dropping a wheel or two there. But with the pit stop cycles done and 14 minutes left in this race, there really is no need for patience at this point. No drivers really near those two at all. So they each have a 10-second window front and behind them. A 10-second window to battle and would not have to worry about cars behind catching up. That being said, Waters losing a little bit of pace there. About a second separates the two right now. But if Waters is able to keep up the pace, he should be able to get back up and hopefully challenge and give us a nice little battle for P2 as we have 13 minutes left in this race. Those two seem to be the closest battle on track right now, and Andreas Hoyos really just running away with it here. I thought maybe Gunnar would have a little bit more to show, come out of the pits a little bit sooner, but it's always hard to tell with the pit stop cycles. But Hoyos really under control of this race with a nice 14-second lead, and quite the gap back from P3 to P4, about 12 seconds back, separating the two. And the field quite spread out at this point in the race. They had some nice battles. Car off there. Not sure who that is.
That would be Amar. That's
Amar.
James Barr in that Ferrari, the number 58. In the inside of the track, looks like they might have got loose off the exit of that left-right chicane, got into the grass as, well, we're going to see if my theory is right. Heading into that chicane, and it takes it fairly nicely, but off the exit, takes a little bit of grass, goes around, and gets that thing stopped, avoiding the wall. But unfortunately for James, it's facing the other way of the track.
Yeah, this is something I've seen a lot in GT3. Recent race at Road America, I saw it, and it just made me think of as the tires age on these GT3 cars, something that drivers typically struggle with is just getting rotation out of the car in the first half of the corner.
I'm sorry, we
Mission?
got a crash
Ooh.
from lead. That's Hoyos in the wall. Hoyos falls out of the lead. Gunther is in the lead of the race.
Wow, just like that, that 14-second lead is gone, and Andreas Hoyos down to P3 there. What a hectic race this has been, and I'm sure Hoyos is kicking himself over that. And he hits the wall.
Sliding through there, and very weird spot of the track is we're going to be seeing Brody just go. Actually, that's a Ford. Victor Stank going all the way down to the inside. There goes Brody on the outside, and there goes Waters. So now we got a 3-car fight for the lead after the 17-second lead of Andreas Hoyos is now dropped it down to third for, I believe that will be the second time we've seen Andreas have a issue here today, as now, well, hey, this race has just been popped wide open like a soda can.
Yeah, we can see that anything can happen in this Shake and Bake Racing series, and a ton has happened, as the amount of lead changes we've had is just incredible to see. But Gunter, while in the lead, is really not out of the pressure. He only has a 2-second gap of margin from Waters back in second. Waters been all over the map, but gotten back up to P2, and could be in a position to challenge the leader now. The top 3 within 4 seconds, which is something that we have not seen, but now we'll see, and hopefully that will lead to a nice finish to this race, as we have 10 minutes left, as I think that will be a nice, interesting battle, especially if these drivers keep struggling with the tire wear and getting rotation out of this car. I was saying that with GT3, generally as the tires age, it's harder to get rotation out of the car, and that can often lead to under rotating and then clipping those exit curbs, as we've seen that happen with drivers just not being able to rotate the car all the way due to the understeer that comes as the tires age, and then that could lead to clipping an exit curb in the car, just the rear just turning around on the car. It's a really weird phenomenon of understeer leading to oversteer, but we've definitely seen that here as the tires age. These cars can go from nice, comfortable, easy to drive cars to not so easy to drive handfuls, as with 9 minutes left to go in this race, they've now run about 36 minutes on these tires, I believe, about trying to see how many laps, but quite the time they've run on these tires now. So I'm sure these cars are getting harder and harder to drive. Of course, it's a sprint stop for fuel, but no time for these drivers to get tires here, as we ride on board with Aiden Doyle in that 7th position, going to work on John Hoyos there. Those two within half a second, your closest battle out on track right now. We'll see if Aiden Doyle is able to make any moves and continue to put the pressure on John Hoyos there. Those two running a similar pace right now. Hoyos running a 1:31.4 last time, and Aiden Doyle running a 1:31.56. Those two pretty close on pace there, so we'll see if there's anything to come with that as we ride on board with Brian Perez, under the pressure from Nate Tetzloff there. We've seen Tetzloff show some good pace, but struggle as he gets a bit closer on exit. I think Perez choked a little bit there on exit, so we'll see if anything is able to happen here. We're seeing Perez with some good pace, but right now it's tough if you're under such pressure. Perez recovering from not so great of a qualifying. He started P10, but is up to P4 now. We'll see if he can hold on to that P4 spot or if he will be under a bit of pressure from Tetzloff as we approach about 8 minutes left in this race. Tetzloff has showed some great pace. We'll see if he's able to put the challenge on and get an opportunity to get by Brian Perez here.
Yep, Brian Perez in. Oh, we got a little mistake. That's Hoyos again. Hoyos falls down to 4th place right there. Brian Perez getting ahead in now 3rd place, holding off Hoyos after that mistake. And now we got a 3-car fight for 3rd place right now as they race down the straight here at Sonoma. Hoyos, mistake after mistake, falls down to 4th place. Now Brian Perez for Miss Apex Professionals is up into 3rd place. Great if you're Brian. It's a horrible time if you are Andreas Hoyos as Nathan Tetzloff. Well, he's at the back of this 3-car fight, and now these 3 cars in the fight for the very last spot on the podium here at Sonoma Raceway for the Shake and Bake Racing Elite Euro Road Series, as they are now starting to separate just a little bit. Hoyos, he needs to start looking at those tires. They're certainly going to be overheated right there. Laid onto the brakes in the background goes Tetzloff. Tetzloff goes wide, trying to get all that onto the brakes, but unfortunately he misses brake point. Almost gets into the back of Hoyos right there. Hoyos, though, getting a better exit. We've seen the pace from the youngest driver here in this entire series. Hoyos definitely has the advantage pace-wise, but does he have the consistency to get past Brian Perez? Perez, though, definitely can hold that off here at Sonoma as they're heading into the highest part of the track, about to head into the lowest part of the track right now as they head through turns 5 and 6. This is where Hoyos, we saw them have that mistake again. They got off the track and they were just stopped right there as they're just trying to chase down Brian Perez. As they chase down Brian Perez with 5 minutes to go here at Sonoma.
Yes, you really love to see it, Austin, with only 5 minutes left to go in this race. This nice battle for 3rd, and so much is happening. You can just see the drivers working and trying to figure out these GT3 cars, testing the brakes and making the most out of it. Of course, Hoyos with that mistake, I'm sure he's not happy about that, but if he can have the pace he had before, he might be able to get up and challenge Perez. There's still 5 minutes left, and as we've seen, anything can happen in this race. But as of now, Hoyos and Tetzloff, 2 cars that were right by each other in the beginning of the race for the lead, are now pretty close to each other in 4th and 5th as we see a car pulling off to the side. And a pass attempt there from Hoyos.
Hoyos just let by Tetzloff. Hoyos went to the inside of the track, and that's where also the Ford of Victor Stank was, looking to defend from Tetzloff right there. But Andreas Hoyos got onto the brakes. It looked like he let him by, but I think that was to avoid Victor Stank in that Ford, who just happened to be in the same line. But Hoyos drops down to 5th place now.
Yeah, that's really tough for Hoyos there. Not sure why or how he let him by, just an issue with the lap car perhaps, but now he is right back on Tetzloff, and this is our closest battle out on track right now for that P4 spot. Of course, P4 is not the same as P1, but we've seen these two have good pace and lead early on, these two qualifying P1 and P2. So we'll see if Andreas Hoyos is able to make a redemption and maybe get back up to P4, but as we can see the rear just wiggling around a bit on that car. I'm sure he's had a bit of damage there and is just struggling with the tires as the tires age. So we'll see if he's able to hustle that car up into that P4 spot, or at least put on the pressure. Yeah, we can just see the rear just stepping out on that car. The rear of that car is really just not settled now, and I'm sure that's both a mix of damage and tire wear. And of course, tire wear on its own is hard to manage, but we could just see that rear fishtailing, and it's making it almost impossible for Hoyos to catch up to Tetzloff there. So Tetzloff with a nice comfortable margin of a full second now. So yeah, at this point in the race, 4 minutes left, with the car going in the pits now, but that will be really tough for Hoyos to really make a recovery now, as especially if he's suffering with the rear of that car.
Yeah, the back end of that car is wiggling around like somebody's doing the boot and scoop boogie right there. It just has no grip at the back end of that car as he's trying to chase down Tetzloff and Perez. And I want to think that Hoyos had, the reason why he let Tetzloff by was he was serving a slowdown penalty in the S's for cutting one of the corners just a little bit too sharp, and picked up a slowdown penalty right there. This is Gunther back to our leader. He's got a car slow off the exit, almost makes contact right there. That is Shiv. That will be Davis Shively on the outside right there, as you see Gunther in the lead by 4.5 seconds. Waters right behind, defending champion at the entry of the corner, as Gunther's at the exit of the corner. With just 3 minutes to go, we're looking at about 2 laps remaining here at Sonoma for the Shake and Bake Racing Elite Euro Road Racing Series here on Apex Racing TV. Brody Gunther leading out the race in the 01 ahead of Casey Waters in that Audi number 1.
Yes, Austin, we've seen these drivers up front have their fair share of issues, but I'd say that Brody Gunner is handling it really well. He started off with a 2-second lead and has grown that to almost a 5-second lead. So with about 2 minutes left in this race, I'd say that if he can stay out of trouble, he should be in a good position to claim that win. Of course, anything can happen, but he qualified P4, but he's been one of the most consistent cars out on track right now. We saw how he had a nice consistent pit stop, no issues there. That's always important, and has had very little issues out on track, which has resulted in him taking the lead of this race with a pretty comfortable margin here. So with the race sort of settling down here, I don't think that unless Gunter makes a mistake, that he will be in a position to lose that lead. That being said, we just saw a car go off before, and that could have been bad. So anything could happen. So I'm sure if you're Brody Gunter, you really just need to put your head down and don't underestimate what could happen with even 2 laps left to go in this race. So I'm sure he's thinking just keep his head down, keep your head down and stay out of trouble. That's what all these drivers should probably be thinking at this point as things settle out. I don't believe there are any close battles. There is a battle for P7 right now, I believe. Doyle. Aiden Doyle right now, if we could get a view of that, see what's happening for that P7 spot. Doyle under pressure here from Burgess there, David Burgess in that
Doyle's
number 7 car.
On pressure. Actually, that's Doyle on John Hoyos. This is the fight for 6th place. David Burgess is a little bit farther behind, as John Hoyos had a little bit of an issue through that first sector. We see that Mercedes struggle through there, but white flag is in the air for Brody Gunther in that Mercedes. Can he hold this 3.5 second lead? It's fallen down by a second to Casey Waters, but Gunther takes the final lap right now. White flag is in the air here at Sonoma. Brody Gunther, the Floridian, just has a few more corners to go to take their win here at the Shake and Bake Racing Elite Euro Road Series. And I believe this will be their first victory as well in this series.
Yes, I'm sure Brody Gunter's pretty happy with that. He must be happy with that starting P4, and just by having consistency and staying out of trouble, that has paid off for him as they approach. I believe that's the turn 11 and 12 hairpin there, that double right, and things seem to be pretty settled down now. I doubt much will happen in this last half a lap of the race, but of course anything can happen.
By half a second. Yeah. Waters is putting all he can in this final lap right now as the fight for 6th place. He got me there right there. And too late on the brakes goes Doyle. And entering the final corner, Brody Gunther just hits that hairpin just as nice and smooth as lime key pie. As around the final corner we go, Brody Gunther takes the win here at Sonoma.
Yeah, I'm sure he's very happy with that. Pretty dominant fashion there. 3.5 seconds as we see Casey Waters coming home in P2. Tough race he's had, but P2, can't be too disappointed about that. He's done a nice, consistent race. Good job to him. P3, Brian Perez in that number 9. Started P10. Your biggest mover, Brian Perez in P3, and then Nate Tetzloff has had quite the amount of issues, but he finishes P4 regardless with a nice redemption there to almost get into the podium. P5, Andreas Hoyos, our driver who's been pretty dominant, but had quite his share of issues, so I'm sure they're a little disappointed about that, but regardless, the pace was good, and I'm sure it was a good experience to get to do GT3 racing with this team. So that rounds out your top 5 in what was quite the hectic and eventful race at this Shake and Bake Elite Enduro Road Racing Series.
Yeah, all right, that was a sight I was not expecting to see. That was a Lamborghini in the fence But yeah, Brody Gunther in that Mercedes, great performance after multiple incidents at the start of the race. Fights through all the downtime at the start and brings it home big with the win here at Sonoma as he burns it down.
Yeah, quite the burnout there for Gunter. Tons of energy here up in the commentating booth, which is nice to see, and we can see it out there on track as well with Gunter doing his oval-style burnouts. I'm sure they're more than happy about that. We love to see the energy here. Running through the field, Brody Gunter finishing P1, our winner. Casey Waters in that number 1 car, P2. Brian Perez in that number 9 for Miss Apex Professionals in P3. P4, Nathan Tetzloff for Privateer Racing in P4. Zanello Racing's Andreas Hoyos in that number 2 in P5. John Hoyos for Privateer Racing in P6. Aiden Doyle in 7th. David Burgess in 8th, Chris James in 9th, Ashley Hancock 10th, Spencer Clark in P11, Mark Bush P12, P13 David Shively, P14 James Marr, P15 Victor Stank, P16 Stephen Cooper, to round out the field Charlie McCarthy in P17.
It was a good race out here today in Sonoma for the Elite Euro Road Series Shake and Bake Racing League. These GT3 cars provided a lot of action here in these 45 minutes that we saw. Brody Gunther, biggest winner today. Well, he is definitely the biggest winner. They came home with the win. Brian Perez up 7 spots to take 3rd place. That would be your biggest mover of the race as well. And it is a manufacturer podium. We got Mercedes on top, Audi in 2nd place, and Lamborghini coming home in 3rd place, as we do have a few drivers, 1 driver waiting by for us right now, and they're standing by with Dylan. That will be Casey Waters.
All right, Casey Waters, P2, quite the eventful race. Started P3 up to P2. Casey, walk us through your race and tell us, did this go the way you wanted to go, and how do you find this GT3 racing here?
Hey guys, thanks for having me in the booth. There's probably a reason I was the only Audi on track, thanks to all my spinning.
Yeah, walk us through your race. I mean, you still finished P2. Can't be too disappointed about that. And overall, you happy with how things went?
Yeah, we got to be happy with the P2. I mean, it was there for us to take in the carousel when Brody got sideways, but we got a little scared ourselves there and put on the brakes when we shouldn't have. And turn 1 or 2, when we made contact with Brody early in the race, was not intended, but it happens in this tight little Sonoma.
It certainly does, and we were talking about how hard it is to pass on here and deal with tire wear as well. Casey Waters, P2, do you have anyone you'd like to thank for this race?
Yeah, just a shout out to my team Prestanda Nomad and the guys at Shake and Bake for putting on a good race and keeping us on the broadcast. It's a great time.
Yes, that's Casey Waters in the number 1, finishing P2. Thanks for coming by, Casey, and good job to you.
Thank you, guys.
As no one really waiting for interviews now that I don't see.
Yes, we do. We got, I believe that will be Andreas and Flybry, which I believe that will be Brian Perez. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say hi to Brian. Brian, how was your race there today, and how was moving up through the field?
Oh my goodness. Well, me and Spencer were actually just talking about, I had a little incident with John trying to work my way up through the field. This is a really hard track to pass at. I'm sweating a lot.
Well, you were the only one that could really be seen to make that car work around other cars. You're the biggest mover, up 7 spots to get that Lamborghini up into 3rd. And at the end of that race, what was going through your mind? Because you were sitting in about 5th place, and next thing you know, you're sitting in 3rd place after passing Hoyos and Tetzloff ahead of you.
To be honest, I was just trying to stay focused. I had my Twitch chat over here just trying to distract me. Sweat was going in my eyes. I had a camera light trying to fall over on my left. So my main focus was just trying to stay focused. And I mean, the Lambo going around this track, it likes to rotate, so it makes it easy to get around the corners, but it also makes it too easy to rotate at times. And there was probably about 10 moments where I thought I was going to crash the car. And so I think that's what happened to Andres, where he slid the car going through one of those high-speed corners and had some damage, and I just happened to benefit from it.
Yeah, it seemed like that Lamborghini, from everybody that we were watching today, that Lamborghini being the most popular car on the field, most of the incidents were Lamborghinis having those incidents. And it, well, not only in the sim was that car trying to kill you, it seemed like your rig was trying to kill you as well.
Oh yeah, well I just got a CSL DD wheel this week, and so the rig I have set up is I have it clamped to my desk. I have it bolted to a piece of wood, and the wood's bolted like clamped to my desk with some quick clamps. And I have my stream lights on the same desk, so you can understand immediately what the issue is going to be there.
I know you're feeling, Brian. Well, congratulations on a 3rd place and a great job moving through the field. Before we let you go, anybody you want to thank?
I'd like to thank Mr. Spencer Clark and the whole Shake and Bake League for just putting on these great races. It's a lot of fun.
Well, we're excited to have you here. Congrats on a amazing performance out there on track, and I hope you have a great night.
Thanks, y'all too. Peace.
Dylan, I believe we do have time for one more, and it was our pole sitter, so I'm going to leave you with Andreas.
All right, I was just trying to see who that was, but here we have Andreas Hoyos, our our pole sitter, finished P5. Tough race for Andres, but showed good pace. Of course, struggled a bit with oversteer in this car. Andres, walk us through your race and tell us just how you feel about it and how you feel about this car in general.
I'm so sorry. You must have yanked the wrong person. I was just changing my name as I hopped in that channel. This is Spencer, though.
Oh, Spencer. All right. Well, we have Spencer Clark here. Finished P11. Spencer, how'd your race go? Walk us through the race and let us know how things went for you out there.
I just wanted to publicly apologize to Stephen Cooper for a moment. He caught me right where I shouldn't have been on the bottom of the corkscrew on lap 1. So that's really all I'm here to say is so sorry to Stephen Cooper. Everything else was an uphill battle for me after that. So.
Got it, Stephen. Totally understood. Thanks for coming in. And glad to see you as a part of this series here. I believe that's it for that. I don't think we have anyone else in the waiting room now. Yeah, I think that should cover it. Austin, what do you think?
Yeah, that's going to be wrapping up today's broadcast here at Sonoma on Apex Racing TV for the Elite Euro Shake and Bake GT3 Road Series. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here on Apex Racing TV. I've been joined by Dylan Christie and Alex Simpson in the production booth, and I'm Austin Knight, and I hope y'all have a good night.